Good morning, dear students. Today we will discuss the character sketch of the most important character, Rosalind, in As You Like It. Let's discuss what sort of Rosalind was. Rosalind is one of the most delightful of Shakespeare's characters and brightest of his heroines. She is the daughter of the banished Duke Senior and is one of Shakespeare's best loved creations. The first thing that draws our attention towards Rosalind is her attractive charms. Rosalind describes herself as being more than common to all. She herself proposes to assume the disguise of a youth during her banishment in the forest. From this, we may suppose that she was not a fragile or hothouse beauty. Orlando describes her as possessing all the graces which nature can adorn a woman in the following words: Helen's cheek, but not her heart, Cleopatra's majesty, Atlanta's better part, sad Lucretia's modesty, thus Rosalind of many parts, by heavenly synod, war devised, of many faces, eyes, and hearts, to have the touches dearest prized. Phoebe, who saw Rosalind dressed as a youth, furnishes us with a more detailed description of her graces. Her appreciation leaves in our minds an impression of attractive charm as vivid as any we could receive from a painted picture. It's a pretty youth, not very pretty, but sure, he is proud, and yet his pride becomes him. He will make a proper man. The best thing in him is his complexion, and faster than his tongue did make offense, his eye did heal it up. There was a pretty redness in his lip, a little riper and more lusty red hand that mixed in his cheek. It was just the difference betwixt the constant red and mingled damask. Orlando thus described to his brother, the shepherd youth, that he in sport doth call his Rosalind. The boy is fair, of female favour, and bestows himself like a ripe sister. Now let's discuss her love for Celia, her cousin. Her love for her cousin Celia is more than sisterly love. It stands the strain of every circumstance. The restless Charles says to Oliver, never two ladies loved as they do when in the forest. Celia sinks with fatigue. Rosalind conceals her own weariness that she may encourage and comfort her. There is no reserve, no secrecy between them. They pour out their hearts to one another. Although we read that she was no less beloved of her uncle than his own daughter, yet we may well believe that it was for Celia's sake alone that Rosalind continued to live at the court after her father's banishment. She tells Celia, unless you could teach me to forget a banished father, you must not learn me how to remember any extraordinary pleasure. The Duke can find no other cause of complaint against her, but that the people praise her for her virtues and pity her for her good father's sake. Indeed, the tyrant himself bears testimony to her gentleness and patient endurance of misfortune when he says to Celia, She is too subtle for thee, and her smoothness, her very silence and her patience speak to the people, and they pity her. Now, let's discuss her changed life in the forest after she was banished. The freer and purer atmosphere of the forest gives a loose rein to Rosalind's natural gaiety. At the court, she was silent and submissive. In the forest, she is merry, talkative, and teasing. At the court, Celia takes the lead and seems to possess the more active mind. After they are in the forest, their relative positions are changed. Rosalind assumes the leading place, whilst Celia is content to play a secondary part. In the court, she is candid in the expression of her love for Orlando. In the forest, she is abased in the presence of her lover. She playfully torments him. She draws from him repeated protestations of his love. She is, however, silent with respect to the state of her own heart, except in the presence of Celia alone. Rosalind's love. Wood and Marshall have analyzed Rosalind's love in the following words. She feels her affection at first as a wound to be endured and bears it with patient resignation. Celia, why cousin? Why Rosalind? Cupid have mercy, not a word, Rosalind, not one to throw at a dog. It renders her more sympathetic than she otherwise might have been to other lovers, for example, Silvius. Alas, poor shepherd, searching of thy wound, I have by hard adventure found mine own. And she recognizes in it the great leveler, a bond of nature uniting all humanity, affecting high and low alike. Joe, Joe, this shepherd's passion is much upon my fashion. It makes her intolerant of heartless pride, as in the case of Phoebe. And why, I pray you, and why, I pray you, who might be your mother, that you insult, exult, and all at once over the wretched? We become aware of her natural maiden modesty. She is covered with blushes when she hears of her lover's presence in the wood. Alas, the day! What shall I do with my doublet and hose? It throws her into a state of tremulous agitation and makes her impatient of delay. 1 inch of delay more is a south sea of discovery. I pray thee, tell me who is it quickly and speak apace. Break an hour's promise in love. He that will divide a minute into 1,000 parts, and break but a part of the thousand, the part of a minute in the affairs of love, it may be said to him that Cupid hath clapped him of the shoulder, but I will warrant him heart whole. Her sympathetic nature. Rosalind's heart overflows with sympathy. Her heart goes out in sympathy to Orlando when she appeals to him to refrain from the contest with the wrestler, refrain from the contest with the wrestler. When her appeal is unsuccessful, she encourages him thus: the little strength that I have, I would it were with you. In the forest, she is in sympathy with all lovers. She brings about the union of all the different pairs. When Oliver tells her how Orlando found him in danger of being attacked by a hungry lioness, her first reaction was to know what Orlando did. She asks, did he leave him there, food to the sucked and hungry lioness? Her vivacity and sparkling wit, next to the beauty of her vivacity, is most immediately attractive quality. She is effeminate, changeable, longing and liking capricious, full of fears and smiles. She chides Orlando. Chides means scolds Orlando one moment, and at the next she playfully beseeches or requests him, come, woo me, woo me, for now I am in a holiday humor and like enough to consent. She has a fitting reply, always ready for everyone. The Duke, the melancholy Jakes, Silvius, Phoebe, and Touchstone. The brightness of her intellect has impressed itself upon Duke Frederick. He tells his daughter that Rosalind's brightness and virtue rob her name. He says, she robs thee of thy name, and thou wilt show more bright and seem more virtuous when she is gone. She is spirited when Duke Frederick unjustly pronounces sentences of banishment upon her. She rem- remonstrates with dignity. I do beseech your grace, let me the knowledge of my fault bear with me. She asserts not only her own innocence, but that of her father also. Trajan, Trajan is not inherited, my lord, or if we did derive it from our friends, what is that to me? My father was no traitor. Her womanliness, her feminine qualities, womanliness, Wood and Marshall point out that Rosalind's tenderness and real gentleness are evidenced by the degree of affection which all who knew her felt for her, and by the responsive love she awakened in Celia. She has all a woman's admiration for physical courage. She tried to dissuade Orlando from wrestling with Charles, but thinks more highly of him for refusing to be persuaded than she would have thought of him had he followed her advice. Listening to Oliver's account of the encounter with the lioness, she is all eagerness to know how her lover acquitted himself. Did he leave him there, food to the sucked and hungry lioness? Although in the forest she wears a man's attire, yet she continually reminds us that she does not carry doublet and hose in her heart. When Celia arouses her curiosity about the writer of the love verses, she exclaims, good, my complexion, good. Dost thou think, though I am caparisoned like a man, I have a doublet and hose in my disposition? When wearied with walking and an endurance beyond her strength, she says to Touchstone, I could find in my heart to disgrace my man's appeal and to cry like a woman, but I must comfort the weaker vessel, as doublet and hose ought to show itself courageous to petticoat. Therefore, courage, good Eleanor. Her common sense, then, on hearing of Orlando's presence in the wood, her maidenly instincts assert themselves. She demands to know, but doth he know that I am in this forest and in a man's appeal? In all her senses and all her scenes, With Orlando, tenderness and feeling ever go hand in hand with playfulness. Her frown, she says, will not kill a fly, and when she hears of Orlando's loss of blood and sees the blood stained handkerchief, she faints away. But she speedily recovers her self possession and, with a woman's presence of mind, saves the situation. Her common sense. Underneath Rosalind's lightness of heart and apparent recklessness, there lies a fund of sound common sense. She feels no sympathy whatever with Jake's. She cuts short his self appreciation. She cuts short her self appreciation with unflattering comments. And your experience makes you sad. I would rather have a fool to make me merry than experience to make me sad and to travel for it too. Though herself many fathom deep in love, she can, even upon the subject of love, utter the maxims of common sense. Men have died from time to time, and worms have eaten them, but not for love. Full of sentiment as she is without sentimentality. Only to Celia does she disclose all her tenderness and love. Only to Orlando, and when herself disguised, does she play the sensy, forward boy. In this guise, whilst teaching him to woo and testing his love, she at the same time gives him lessons in prudence derived from her own observation of the world and of human nature. Say a day without the ever. No, 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 Orlando. Men are April when they woo, December when they wed. Maids are May when they are maids, but the sky changes when they are wives. Wonderful. What a practical knowledge. What a practical situation is given. That's all for today, and have a nice day. Tomorrow we will discuss the character sketch of Celia and the Duke in banishment.